Hello guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to be doing my final NHL award picks. Now the NHL regular season is almost over, so which players do I think will contend for these NHL trophies, and which players are my NHL award picks? Watch till the end to find out. So in this video, I'll be going through various NHL awards and assigning a few players who I think should be contending and a player who I think should win that NHL award. Now this is not to be confused with predictions. I'll be doing that at a later date to assign players who I think will actually win the award. Now we're first going to start out with the Calder Trophy, and this one, at least when it comes to the winner, really couldn't be more obvious. Now when it comes to my top three, at number 3 I have Rasmus Dahlin, at number 2 I have Brady Tkachuk, and of course at number 1 I have Elias Patterson. That should pretty much be a no-brainer. Even though Elias Patterson has been a little bit cold as of late, he still has been the runaway favorite and right now should win the Calder Trophy. When it came to Elias Patterson, he just got up to that amazingly fantastic start, and really, not too many rookies could really catch up to him too much. The guy that was behind him when it came to points was Brady Tkachuk. He's number 2 in my rankings right now, just because of how he's played this season, has gotten over 20 goals on a terrible Ottawa Senators team. He has been pretty great for them as well. And Rasmus Dahlin, who I think is Buffalo's best defenseman already, ahead of guys like Rasmus Ristolainen. I think he's definitely the biggest impact rookie on that team, obviously, but I think he is the biggest impact defensive rookie, even though my boy Miro Heiskanen is still pretty great too. Now, I also wanted to give some honorable mentions because when it came to this rookie class, it was incredibly close in the top 3 especially. And when it came to honorable mentions, of course, my boy Miro Heiskanen, I had to include him. He's had a fantastic year, especially offensively. And another guy that's kind of in that same situation, Andrei Svechnikov, who maybe not the points were as good as we maybe expected, but overall he's been a fantastic player and has had a great rookie year. Then you have Carter Hart and Jordan Binnington, the 2 excellent goaltenders, have come out of nowhere and just surprised a lot of people, especially Binnington, who has almost carried the St. Louis Blues into a playoff spot. Now we're going to move on into the Norris Trophy, and this one was very, very interesting because there's a lot of defensemen that you could definitely make the case for. When it came to my top 3, I had Letang at number 3. He's had an excellent season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. At number 2, I had Morgan Rielly of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And at number 1, I would say more of an obvious pick, Marc Giordano of the Calgary Flames. Now, all 3 guys have had excellent seasons offensively, especially Marc Giordano, who is 35 years old, but is still carrying. He's had a really underrated career as of late, and especially when it comes to his season, he's been fantastic. I think he has 74 points. Overall, for his age, he's just been unbelievable. Then when it comes to Morgan Rielly, he's had an excellent offensive season as well. Something that I definitely didn't predict. Alongside guys like Austin Matthews, John Tavares, he's been fantastic. And the surprise one was Chris Letang. Now, I have not been the biggest fan of Chris Letang in the last couple of years, but I will give credit where it is due. He's had an excellent season with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Defensively, he's been so much better as of late, and offensively, he's absolutely killing it. Now on to some honorable mentions. I wanted to first shout out Seth Jones, who has had an amazing season again as well. My boy, Texas-born stud. I also wanted to give a shout out to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who has had a great season, being the new captain of the Arizona Coyotes, being one of the main reasons why they were in that playoff race for so long. And last but not least, Victor Hedman, who has been a key part of that historic Tampa Bay Lightning team. Now moving on to the Vezina Trophy, and if you would have asked me in the first half, it would have been John Gibson 100%. And John Gibson still has had a decent second half, but it's been a lot more of a closer race, especially as of late. Now at number 3, I have Robin Leonard of the New York Islanders. At number 2, I have my boy Ben Bishop of the Dallas Stars. And at number 1, I still have John Gibson of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, some of you might be thinking, why is John Gibson number 1? Well, if you're into advanced stats when it comes to goaltenders, it will be an obvious answer. But when it comes to the save percentage, I think he's at .916 right now. It's not one of the top goaltending stats in the league. But when it comes to the goal saved above average, he has dominated that and has dominated that all season. Now, goal saved above average is like shot quality, goes into how likely the goaltender is to actually save the puck, and John Gibson has just been lights out, and in the first half, he was dominating that stat, and right now, he is still first in the NHL with an 18.4 goal saved above average, which is insane, especially for a year where scoring is up, and when it came to John Gibson, from what I saw this season, even though he has regressed a little bit, he still has been the best goaltender in the world, especially this season, and I had to give him a little bit of credit there. When it comes to both Ben Bishop and Robin Lehner, they have played less games than maybe goalies like Frederik Andersen, goalies like Andrei Vasilevskiy, but the games that they have played, both of them have been fantastic. Both guys are amazing in save percentage and in goals saved above average, and I like both of those guys. Robin Lehner resurging with the New York Islanders. He's in an excellent rebounding season. Same thing with going with Ben Bishop, who was kind of average last season, but has been brilliant, especially in the second half with the Dallas Stars when he has been healthy. So when it comes to that top three, all three goaltenders have been fantastic this season when goaltending is very hard to come by. When it comes to some honorable mentions, I first want to shout out Matt Murray, who has had a brilliant second half, becoming one of the best goaltenders in the world right now. When it comes to his stats, he's just been skyrocketed since, I would say, January. He's been fantastic. Also, Pekka Rinne, who has had a great season as well. I predicted him to regress a little bit, and he has regressed, but not as much as I predicted, and he's still a very good goaltender. And last but not least, Frederik Andersen, who, yes, has had in his last few starts, hasn't been the greatest, but overall still has an excellent year, and that's usually par for the course when it comes to Freddie Andersen. Now, on to the next big one, the Hart Trophy. And this award is debated every single year throughout the year, and it's always a great debate. Now, when it comes to my top three for this year, at number 3, I have Sidney Crosby. At number 2, I have Connor McDavid. And at number 1, I have Nikita Cuchara. Now, when it comes to all three guys, they both have been fantastic this season. Sidney Crosby being great offensively, defensively, like we all expected. Connor McDavid, I see why people might have him off their Hart contention, but to me personally, I have to have him for how good he has been, having a career in Edmonton. I don't care how good his team is, he has been the most valuable player to at least the Edmonton Oilers and maybe even the Western Conference. But in my personal opinion, the most valuable player has been Nikita Cuchara, even though the Tampa Bay Lightning have a lot of other guys that are obviously amazing offensively. Nikita Cuchara is putting up elite numbers that we haven't seen in like 2+ decades. Now, Kucherov wasn't an absolute god this season. I would have McDavid as my MVP. McDavid just carrying the Edmonton Oilers to somewhat sort of relevance. But Kucherov has had an amazing season, and although he does have those fantastic teammates, he's just been on a land of his own, especially offensively. When it comes to the honorable mentions for the Hart Trophy, there was a lot of guys that were competitive for even the honorable mentions. It was that good this season. Guys like Brad Marchand, John Tavares, Sebastian Aho, those are the 3 guys I had as my honorable mentions, but there was a ton of guys that were fighting for those spots as well. So it was a very tight race, but those guys I think were the elites of the elites. Now, moving on to the Selkie Trophy, and this one is a really fun one to gather. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's obviously Alexander Barkov, but it's actually not. Now, when it comes to my top 3, at number 3, I have Brendan Gallagher. At number 2, I have Mark Stone. And at number 1, this will surprise a ton of people, but I have Ryan O'Reilly. Now, for the purpose of this voting, I went to Alexander's advanced stats to really see if he was a slam dunk for the Selke Trophy that I thought he was going to be after all. And I went to the expected goals for, or goals against, and that is a pretty big stat that I think is going to be the future of us determining whether a player is good defensively or not. And when it came to Alexander Barkov's stats there, plus minus is irrelevant. What I see from the ice, he is still a fantastic defensive player, but when it comes to the expected goals against, it's not all that great on Barkov's side. I've checked that once again this week. He's just not playing the greatest defensively, especially compared to years past. And while I know a lot of people will be voting for him as a Selke guy, I'm not sure if this is the year that he actually has performed up to that level. Now, when it came to some honorable mentions, I also mentioned Eric Staal as a guy who has had a great season defensively. Guys like Mikael Backlund, who have always been great two-way centers. And last but not least, Brad Marchand, who is a winger, of course, but has had an excellent defensive season, especially alongside the offense, scoring 100 points. He's been super valuable to the Boston Bruins. Now, on to the last 2 trophies, both of them being non-player related, and we're first going to start out with the Jack Adams, which is a huge topic of debate every single year. When it comes to my top 3, at number 3, I have Craig Berube, at number 2, I have Barry Trotz, and at number 1, I have John Cooper. Now, a lot of people like to joke that the Jack Adams Award is usually awards to the coach who defies a ton of expectations, and that's what Barry Trotz is at a point. But I feel like this year is the year where we kind of see that change, and that's only because of the Tampa Bay Lightning. In my personal opinion, you have to be something amazing to be able to get anywhere close to the win record in the entire NHL's history. I don't care how well Barry Trotz has done with the New York Islanders. Jon Cooper has made the Tampa Bay Lightning into the amazing team they are, and especially this season. Again, they have an opportunity to tie the Detroit Red Wings for the most wins in NHL history, and I think he deserves the credit for that. While Barry Trotz is an excellent coach and has defied a lot of expectations with the New York Islanders, changing them into a very fantastic defensive team, in my personal opinion, you have to give the award to the best coach in the NHL, and Jon Cooper right now is that award. In my personal opinion, you can't just luck out of getting that many wins, playing that well. You have to have a coach who is not just good, but fantastic. And in my opinion, you should give it to the best coach, maybe the best team in the league. And while sometimes, yeah, you do award to the team that has defied expectations, the Tampa Bay Lightning have done that as well, being one of the best teams, and in my personal opinion, the best team in NHL history. Now, when it came to the honorable mentions, I wanted to also shout out Bruce Cassidy of the Boston Bruins. He's done so much with a team that has been brittled by injuries this season. You also have Rob Brind'Amour, who has led the Carolina Hurricanes into the playoffs for the first time since 2009. And last but not least, Bill Peters, who is with the Calgary Flames, the Western Conference champions, turned them into a pretty solid team, to say the least. Now, last but not least, onto the GM of the Year award, and this one is always pretty interesting to vote on every single year. It's usually one that is up in the air. This year was a really good example of that as well, as there was a lot of GMs that have done a pretty solid job over the last couple of years, but my top three goes as follows. I have Doug Armstrong on the St. Louis Blues at number 3, I have Doug Wilson of the San Jose Sharks at number 2, and I have Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins at number 1. Now, when it came to some honorable mentions, I first want to shout out Kyle Dubas, who in his first year as GM has done a ton of great things for the Toronto Maple Leafs, getting guys like John Tavares, obviously. Next, you have George McPhee, of course, GM of the Golden Knights. I feel like he still had a pretty great offseason. Some of those things are starting to get into place finally, and of course, being the GM of the expansion Golden Knights, still being a great team, you gotta give credit to him as well. And last but not least, Brad Treliving, who is the Calgary Flames GM, had a pretty solid offseason, and a lot of those trades are working out amazingly right now. But the NHL awards are always fun to pick, always fun to predict, even though I do sometimes get them wrong. But when it comes to the trophies and the awards, it'll be super interesting to see who wins, who ends up getting nominated in the NHL awards in June. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about my opinions? What do you think about my picks on these NHL awards? Let me know who you think will win the Hart Trophy, the Calder Trophy, the Norris Trophy, the Vezina Trophy, and all the trophies that I listed in this video down in the comments down below. But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this video right here to watch my looking back on my terrible NHL award predictions from the start of the season. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on my NHL award picks and what your picks are as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.